Sports Social Podcast Network.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Scouser Tommies on Anfield Index. I'm Jim Boardman and I'm with Reid, and we've just had 2 weeks in a row where Liverpool have had a week between games. It's such a luxury, but obviously that's going out the window soon because in the lead up to the League Cup final, which is a few games away as we record this, there's a couple of games to play. Obviously, one of the reasons Liverpool didn't have a game midweek is because we've already comfortably got through to the next bit of the Europa League, so we didn't need to mess about trying to get into the last bit. We were already through. Bit of a strange thing that, maybe we'll talk about that later, but find it odd that clubs are able to have one game less, because I can remember when all this kicked off, the main thing was to get as many games as possible so they could get more money coming in. UEFA, that is, not the managers, the powers that be wanted more games. So I'm surprised they've made us have less. Anyway, it's a nice rest, if that's the right word. But I think it's a rest we've probably needed, given we're still sort of struggling a little bit with injuries here and there. We've got through the season so far, basically, I think almost every week has been looking at who's missing, and we've had enough to play 11, and then anywhere between 2 and 5 sort of known outfield players to come and be on the bench. So it feels like, as soon as one gets better, another one goes away. But Jay, I think, I don't know, last week when we recorded, we were talking about the Arsenal game, talking about it being a blip, and I think a lot of what happens between now and the end of the season depends on players being fit and all the rest of it. A lot of games coming up. Going to be interesting how that works out. But once we're on the game, we've just got to do our best. And I feel we didn't do that against Arsenal, but I think against Burnley, in the end, we did our best. I wasn't sure about the first, 15, 20 minutes maybe, but I feel after that we kind of started to be ourselves again, the way we have been this season, which, let's be honest, top of the league, but not perfect every game, but always doing enough. Other than that, there was a couple of occasions. Yeah, I mean,
on the injuries, it is frustrating sort of to see players coming back and then another one going out, or in the case of Trent and Szoboszlai, I'm not even going to mention Thiago. Players coming back from an injury, is it too soon? Is that the players pushing themselves too soon? Putting themselves in the mind of the manager, saying, "No, I'm fine," because they want to get out there, they don't want to miss any action, or is it ill-advised coaching or medical advice? Something that we'll never know. We're not privy to that. Just on a personal basis, I've tried to come back from a little injury running the last week or two, and I know what it's like. You feel something and you think, "Oh no, I'll be fine," in a few days' time, and you think you're fine, and then you're not. And what was then like a little tweak sort of then rules you out for like a few more weeks rather than waiting an extra few days. So I'm obviously just a casual amateur running at home. I'm not a professional player footballer, but magnify the level up, and these lads are finely tuned athletes. For a fan of Formula One like yourself, how finely tuned them cars are, and it can only take a little something and the whole car goes askew. So we've just got to be careful with what we're doing. But we're recording this on the Friday afternoon, just after Klopp's pre-press conference for the Brentford game, and the bout of flu or the sniffles, whatever you want to call it, for Alisson and Gomez, who were seemingly the nominated two. who are the ones missing from last weekend's results, are back in training. Young Bradley's back, given his family situation, and what we said last week. I think that boy can come and play when he's ready. There's no pressure on him to be back in the team, even if Trent's missing. We've got Gomez there who has more than done an adequate job this season across the back line. So no pressure on that kid to play again when he's mentally, in a position to play. And that's when that lad comes back. But I think everyone, given how the first half hour went last week, was a bit flat and a bit sort of, are we going to get anything out of this? I think everyone's sort of now drawn to the fact that Mo Salah is back. And, fingers crossed that we've taken every precaution with him, because I think Klopp said last week, if it was up to Mo, he'd be back on the training pitch and in the squad last weekend, where we've probably given him the extra week just to, cross all the T's and dot all the I's and make sure everything is, finely tuned with probably what is the most finest tuned of athletes in our squad. With no due respect to us, the shape that fella's in is outrageous. But if he can get on the bench for the Brentford game, and by the time this is out, I'm sure people will have known that outcome, and then looking one eye on next midweek. The game being brought forth from the weekend against Luton. I think it's an opportunity where players will be vying for starting roles in the cup final next weekend. But you're looking at Mo Salah thinking, well, if you can just get a few minutes in his legs over the next two games, albeit possibly sub appearances in both, and just ensure that he's ticking over nicely going into next weekend, because we are going to need our star players as much as we have at Chelsea a couple of weeks ago. A cup final, as we've seen in recent times, anything can happen. They can usually be quite tense and tight affairs, and if it's a case of having a held back but finely tuned Mo Salah for next weekend, I'll be happy with that if it means we can oversee the next two obstacles in the league, albeit him off the bench and others in the squad doing the jobs that they've been doing in the last few weeks.
Yeah, it's a funny one with injuries. I remember there was always a lot of fuss about Daniel Sturridge, and was he really injured or was he not? There was all this kind of rumour going around that maybe it was a psychological thing, that he wasn't as injured as he thought he was, and he could play, but for some reason the psychology got in the way. And I never fully understood what the truth was about that. We maybe never will know what the truth was about that. But what I can remember thinking was strange about it was that so many ex-players I've heard speak, even spoken to some directly, and they've said it, but you'll often hear it in the media when they're talking that, if they're 75% fit, they'll tell the manager they're 100. If they're 60% fit, they'll try and say they're 90% fit. Loads and loads of players will hide from the manager that they're not fully fit. And I think how inclined you are to do that probably goes up a bit as well if your team's struggling. So we don't know what's gone on with Trent, but if Trent was asked honestly how you feel, are you ready to go, I just can't imagine Trent being someone who's just going to say, oh no, I've got still got a bit of a niggle. He's gonna, if there's any doubt in his mind whether he's fit or not, I imagine he's more likely to go along the line of I'm fit than go along the line of I'm not sure, because I just think, he's vice captain. We just had, we'd only had sort of, it was a chance for him to kind of get his first start. Conor Bradley's been playing well. I just feel like if you went to Trent before that game and said, are you all right for today? He's going to say, yeah. And there's only so much the medical staff can do. You can do all the scans you like and all the rest of it, but there's still a limit on how much A lot of it is down to what the player tells you. So, I don't think we need to sort of start throwing blame around, but it sounds like someone's trying to, because there's a quote from Klopp from the press conference saying, as long as I'm here, we've never forced anybody back and never will do. He said, I think we have to clarify a bit. I wasn't really aware of it, but I got the news that there was a discussion that we might have forced Trent back because of two setbacks. Nobody wants that, and nobody's doing that. Sorry, we might have forced Trent back because of these two setbacks. Nobody wants that. No one's doing that. But as he says, we work in a high performance area. We always try to catch the earliest moment. Unfortunately, when we catch that early moment, nobody speaks about that, which is, you've got to kind of spot. We take players off as a precaution. You hear that all the time. So I think it is a difficult situation. And I can't imagine us sort of using Trent for that game, despite, although, okay, yeah, we did have injuries, we did have, we were down to sort of one fullback, I think, if Trent didn't start. So I can imagine us not risking it badly, though, for that game. There's a whole season still to go. I just feel like we wouldn't have risked it, but I don't know. There's always this sort of blame thing goes ground in football, isn't there? As soon as anything negative comes up, everyone has to start throwing blame around. But we've got these athletes, as you say, and I think, we treat them differently. I mean, you just mentioned in F1 as well, if there's a problem on a car, they get it dealt with. Unlike, most people, when they've got a car, they hear a bit of a strange noise on the car, turn the radio up. There's not a problem anymore, is there? They're not doing that. But I just think, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I just don't think we'd have risked Trent for that game. I can imagine us doing it if it was like, let's imagine, last game of the season, you got to win. And it's either Trent plays at right back or we have to get Diaz to play at right back. I'm pretty sure we'd probably maybe give Trent a go then, but otherwise I just don't see it. Yeah,
and I don't think, probably at kickoff last week he may well have only been, 90% fit, but 90% fit is good enough. If you compare to the week before against Arsenal, he did look a lot more unfit, a lot more rusty. I noticed like last week during the game, and again, this is one of the advantages of, being in the ground and seeing a bigger picture. There was a few times where Trent was out on the right-hand side of the field and, the play was obviously probably with Van Dijk or Robertson, and he pulls wide, but he's walking and he looked a little bit dejected and a little bit like not sort of overly interested. And I said to my mate, I was like, I'm not sure there's something right there with Trent. Like he doesn't seem 100% like in the game, and whether he just felt it. And I think there was talk, he kicked the ground or something like that, and it could just been a little thing, and maybe it was just playing on his mind. But we done the right thing in getting him off. It can't have been overly too severe for them to actually continue until half time. Had it been really bad, he would have sat down and gone off straight away. It's a sticky situation, but yeah, you're right in the fact that I don't think we would have forced it for Burnley at home, with all due respect to Burnley. Like, in a couple of weeks' time, maybe Man City at home, and if it was, do you gamble on an 80-90% fit lad and maybe look at getting them through, or, a semi-final of a cup competition, and you sort of cross your fingers, and players go through games. A lot of players over the several years will admit to playing through the pain barrier. Like they strap themselves up, take painkiller injections. It's a well-known sort of thing, and players will see themselves through, especially in the situation we've had this week, where we've had pretty much a whole week for lads to recover and recuperate. We've not been playing midweek, as you said earlier on, but I think it's just a case of we've played a lot of football, and up until this point we've managed our squad really well. And I think that's one thing that can be said of Klopp and the coaching staff is, we've had injuries. Everybody does have injuries, but what I find, and this could be just media narrative, is like, Man City have been missing Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne and possibly a couple of other players. And would you have it believe that, they've basically been decimated because those two fellas have been out? And we've had Mo Salah gone for, 2 months now? It's the equivalent of, the start of January. I think it was possibly the last time we seen him, was it? Maybe the end of December. I think it was the Newcastle game that we attended, actually.
Yeah. New Year's Day.
So, New Year's Day. So, we're sitting here today on the 16th of Feb with the potential that Salah could be in the squad for tomorrow's game, and most likely, we won't have to use Mo Salah tomorrow. We might just see him on the pitch at Anfield next week, or even the cup final, which is the end of February, and that's a large chunk of the season to be missing arguably one of the top 4 or 5 players in the world. And nothing's been made of that. Add to the fact, we have been missing other players at various times throughout the season, and we've just sort of got on with our business, and that suits us fine. I'm not complaining at the fact that we've sort of been overlooked, but it just find it hilariously funny that, you know, all of a sudden Man City are supercharged because two players who've missed a few months, and obviously in Kevin De Bruyne's case a large chunk of the season, are back, and all of a sudden it's like let's all parade Man City as this glorious machine of football because a couple of lads have come back from injury, and it just shows, you know, how the media narrative works. And you know, Szoboszlai out for a while, Trent out for a while. We've missed, you know, probably all of our forward line at some point in this season for 4 or 5 games at a time. You know, we've been missing midfielders. You know, Alexis has been out injured. Curtis has had a couple of knocks and bumps. You know, we missed Endo for half a dozen weeks. You know, Matip's been gone since October, I think it was, something like that. Robertson, 13 weeks, you know. So we're not playing pauper here, but, you know, we've done things in a professional manner, and I think that is something that's been overlooked, especially in the national media. But I like the fact that we've also just slotted in, you know, a couple of young lads in there. We've rotated our squad well, and we've managed the situation. And I think as well, we've said a few times, but the academy is bearing a lot of fruit to the labour now. And I've seen a couple of stories this week about young centre halves who, I think it's Nallo and Pennington, 16 and 17 years of age respectively, who have been playing for the under-21s. So, you know, they're playing 3 or 4 years above their, you know, what is deemed their age level.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting these lads out there under any pressure to say to be on our first team books in the next year or two. But, you know, it's good to see when opportunities are then presented to the likes of Jarell Kwanzaa and Connor Bradley, who stepped up to the first team, that does next, you know, your next set of lads, or, you know, your next cab off the bank sort of saying is coming through, and the academy's bearing good products there, and, you know, there's good careers being made for lads in this academy, and whether it be at Liverpool or elsewhere, it's nice to see that we are actually producing some quality young players.
Yeah, I was just thinking that as well. Yeah, because obviously every time we have to dig deeper and go down, you know, look to the younger lads and bring them up to the first team. That creates a space, doesn't it, for younger lads further down the chain, and it works its way up and gives them the chance. And it's one of the downsides in a way with kids as well, is that our youngsters, that you can't always give them a go. You don't know how good they're going to be in a real proper game until you put them in a real proper game. But doing that is a risk. Much the same really is what we've just been saying about putting a player on the pitch who's a well-known player, but he's had an injury. You know, it's a risk. Thiago, we gave him a go, probably didn't know it was going to work or not till we tried, it didn't work. So we, you know, my own view is, I'm sure we'll see him again soon, but, you know, there's got to come a point with a player like that where you've just got to give him a go and see how it works out, and hope there isn't a setback, hope it does work out, hope any setback that does come isn't a major one. And I think the other thing what you're saying about City as well is this is the difference is if they've got 2 players missing, say, and it's the end of the world and it's a miracle they've even got any wins or anything because of those 2 players missing, then given the money they spend and the reputation of their manager and the reputation of all the other stuff in that club and how they want the best of everything and they pay for the best of everything, how on earth can you end up to a situation where, you know, a couple of players go missing and it's the end of the world for you? Because you're right. I mean, and just look at us. You're not going to be able to say that Mo Salah being out, that you're going to say, oh, we didn't miss him, because you will. There's times in all the games he's missed where you think, yeah, what difference would it have made if Salah had been playing today? Even if it's just that other players have had to play more and stuff. It's the same, you know, if Virgil's not at his best, you think, God, we know, we miss Virgil. If Ali can't be in the net like last weekend, I thought Queez did great, did a good enough job, but you're still thinking, I wish we had Ali there. But the thing is, what we've had to do is we've had to get some of our first choice players, maybe not spend anything like some other clubs spend on similar kind of players, spend a bit less on your kind of backup players or your rotation players, and then get down into the reserves. And I'm pleased with the way we've done it. I think I'd still be top of the league at this stage of the season with the amount of injuries that we've had. And to have not even gone out in the transfer window and spent another penny, it feels like we're being really sustainable with things at the moment. I'm sure we could do with looking at whether, I'm sure we'll review the season whenever the new manager comes in, whoever that is, whenever the new director of football or whatever we have comes in. I'm sure we'll review all this and decide which way to go with things. But I feel like we're doing it the right way. You're right, 100%. I wish that there were, as you say, there's part of me wishes that we got the credit for this. That I won't say we're on a shoestring budget, but as far as like top 6 clubs are concerned, maybe we spend nothing like, I don't think we spend anything like the others. If you even it out and you work out what money we've had coming in for players, I mean, going back to when Virgil came in, I'm pretty sure we were still spending the Coutinho money at that stage. It's like we've been sensible with our money, which has frustrated a lot of people. And that's where the FSG out stuff gets seeded from, because they see other clubs spending mad amounts of money and we're not. And they're like, why are you doing that? I'd rather us be sensible with what money we've got than be like Chelsea and spend an absolute fortune and have nothing to show for it. Or be like them lads across the park and spend an absolute fortune and have nothing to show for it. I think
what we are, sorry to cut you up, is we're what the league wants every club to be, or what, the authorities in the game, the FFP, profits and sustainability, whatever they want to dress it up as, it changes. Acronyms and it changes sort of names every 3 or 4 or 5 years. But in this season, in reference to the lads across Stanley Park, we've seen teams being punished for breaching the rules and not being, sustainable and spending, out of hand and spending beyond their means and not spending wisely at all, because obviously they've not got any better. They've got worse, if anything, in what they have spent. But I would say, not taking the red tinted glasses off, we're the model club. Yes, there would be, people who don't support Liverpool, who support other clubs, bigger, smaller, whatever you want to look at yourselves as, and say like, well, they're part of the big 6 or the greedy 6 as they're often known, and they get all the money from European football. Well, we're not in Champions League this year, so we've took a big dent in sort of that sort of profitable income. But you're only in the Champions League or you're only in European competition because you're good enough to get in there. Look at Brighton. Last week's opponents, Burnley, at one point were playing in European football. Other clubs across the league, West Ham, Leicester in recent times have all played European football. You do get the riches of getting, European money, and they're through, cup competitions. We've got the Carabao Cup coming up next week. It's an opportunity presented to clubs to get into Europe. It's another route in, and we've got a very good model. And yes, there will be always knockers and doubters of, how come Liverpool can't spend more money? How come Liverpool won't spend more money? But if you look at what we've done, and it's a huge debate in terms of how the club's run, but we're run very well in terms of, we're producing kids from the academy. We sell to buy within reason. And yes, you mentioned Virgil van Dijk, and there was a time when we had to sell star players to then recoup money to maybe buy 2 or 3 more. But in recent years, we've sold a few players and we've not overly spent too much. And people love to, say, you spent 85 million on Darwin Núñez. Well, we might spend 85 million on Darwin Núñez, but we actually only shelled out 64. And obviously, people are aware with finances, it's over numerous seasons and stuff. Right. But, I think the only other club in the top 6, 7, 8 teams of the league who are probably similar, well run to us, and people will say they're the best run business in English football, is Tottenham. And the league would like the majority of clubs to be like us, use the academy to produce kids, not have to sell your best player every season because you're overspending on wages, or you're overstretching in the transfer market and trying to buy 12 players and actually only 2 of them are any good. You're you scout well, you recruit well, and a lot of our hits in the market have sort of been the 30 to 40 million pound price bracket. Now and again we've gone big, but a lot of our real successes in the transfer market under Jurgen Klopp have been that 30 to 40 million bracket, which sounds crazy today, but in the modern game isn't overly expensive. There's a lot worse talented players going for very similar prices in transfers around England and around Europe, but we do our homework and we do the right thing and we recruit as and when, and we promote. So we should get more credit than what we actually do, because we're doing things the right way. And there's clubs out there who crib and cry about we spent 800 million and it's not working for us, so we'll go and spend 200, 300, 400, 500 more million. We spent 100 million on Declan Rice, but our midfield is still lacking. Or in the case of Everton on the Park, we spent 600 million and only apparently 10 million was over budget or whatever, but we're still 17th in the table, or 18th I think they are now. And it's, you do sort of feel as though, well, you've only really got yourself to blame. I'm just happy how we do things, and yes, things could always be a little bit more. An extra transfer here, an extra transfer there, 20 million more, 30 million here, whatever. And we have moaned about that in the past, but when you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, I think we can be quite proud of the fact that if we go on to success, we've done it the right way, we've done it clean, we've done it fair, and we've got a lot of factors that have contributed to it.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own two-footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m, Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, and I think there's a thing in football that you sort of, well, when Hicks and Gillette were here and we were like, what the hell's going on? Came in, bought Torres and things like that. Money was there to start with. Obviously it all went a bit skew-whiff after that, to say the least. And one of the big things is always you do that quick maths as you do as fans, where everything's spent within the year, as you know, it isn't. And you go, right, well, we won this, you did that, prize money, TV money's gone up by this much. So automatically you think, well, there's another 40 million we should have spent on players, and we didn't. Why didn't we? And there was always a thing with Hicks and Gillette, and it carried into the new owners because, our trust was ruined by those two. But there was a thing with them where you're always thinking, well, where has all the money gone? And the money all went on interest payments because they put the club into all kinds of debt and stuff like that. That's where the money will have gone. And that's what's happening to other clubs as well, who've been borrowing like mad to sort of try and get through things for good or bad reasons. If Manchester United, the debt they've got is unreal. The amount of money that they bring in and then send straight out as debt is unreal. It's mad. But now I don't think there's any point since FSG came in where they've gone, oh, that's a nice 40 million extra this year. We'll have that, fancy a new yacht. There isn't any of that. I just think, I'm not sure if they took anything out of the club. I think their way of dealing with it is that the asset they bought for a few hundred million is now, we're talking billions for it now, which is, that's where they're making their money. One day they can sell a chunk of it or all of it or whatever and make more money. They don't seem to be in any rush. So, which is perhaps just as well, because I'm not sure what we get. But then I noticed when you mentioned Tottenham, and it's not just about how you're dealing with players and player signings that make a difference with how your clubs run. We needed a new stadium when Hicks and Gillette were around. We realised when FSG came in that would be really expensive and that maybe there was a way around it. And some of the barriers we'd had to do that in the past, as in to make Anfield bigger, kind of started to disappear. There's still criticism about how we did that, but it doesn't matter. In the end, we got to a point where we could make Anfield bigger, but you still need money to do that. And it feels like it was done sensibly. Main stand was done. Wait a while. Get the academy redone. Wait a while. Get the Anfield Road end done. Wait a while. Whatever's next. I mean, I'm not sure if there will be anything next, but all of that's been done in a way that we're not skint. And you look at Tottenham, I mean, they've not had the success on the field, but they've built a brand new stadium that's going to make them a load more money because of all the other things they can do with it. And as far as I'm aware, they've not had to go into like silly debt for it that they can't afford to service. Now, that's one of the biggest issues over the way with the Laszlo from across the park is they tried to get a new stadium and tried to spend a fortune on players. And really, they have to ask themselves, could we afford to do either of those things? Probably not. Could we afford to do both? Definitely not. And they didn't stop and think. And again, that takes you back to that mentality we've talked about as well over there, which is always like blame the manager, blame the manager, blame the manager. While you're doing that, there's other people who are the villains at your club that you're letting get away with it. So, and I think Everton have fallen foul of that over the years. And what happens then is you throw out a manager and the new manager comes in, doesn't want any of his crap players, does he? So, maybe some of the stuff I'm saying though, are we going to have some kind of problems next year because we're getting a new manager? I don't think so. I think he's going to be, whoever comes in, he's going to be happy with who he gets. He's going to have some favourites that he maybe wants to bring with him. He's going to have some players if he has an issue with because he doesn't like their style. But on the whole, I don't think we're going to be throwing loads of players out next year.
No, I think there's just probably a natural sort of shelf life in certain players who will probably be gone, due for various reasons, contracts or, that they're not getting playing time, or maybe the manager just, whoever the guy will be to take charge, it just doesn't fancy them for whatever reason, or, it can be a multitude of reasons, and there will be players move on, and there might be, a surprise exit. I'm not sort of advocating, the fact that anyone big is going to go, and, you'd hope if anyone was to go, it was for, reasons that were fair and just, not like, unfair of a player to force themselves out, because I don't see why anyone would want to leave us and force themselves to go anywhere, because why would you?
No one's going to be able to pull that trick, are they, and say, I want more game time, I'm going to leave if I don't get it, like some players did last season.
Or I want to go to a bigger club. There will always be that Real Madrid, Barcelona lure for certain players. Maybe, it's a bigger sort of attraction for players from certain parts of the world. But, you'd look at Barcelona and say, well, do you really want to go to Barcelona this time? They're going to have a new manager next season. The troubles they've been through, financially very unstable. Real Madrid, it will always be the Real Madrid attraction, but, players, unless you probably say Virgil van Dijk or Trent Alexander Arnold, possibly, Mo Salah maybe, but it looks like Kylian Mbappe is probably going to end up there. Let's not try and kid ourselves and think he's going anywhere else, but... Yeah. Are you going to get in the Real Madrid team, or are you just going for the fact that you can put it on your CV that you've played for Real Madrid? And other than that, there's nowhere else around Europe you'd want to go. There's nowhere else in England you'd want to go unless you were going to Chelsea or City, literally for the bag of money. And yet, yes, there'll be players whoever the new manager is, just might not want, or might want to actually bring in someone who they know could do a better job for us, and I don't know who that might be, or whatever it might be, whatever position. They might take a look at, let's just pick a player off the top of our heads. So let's just say Andy Robertson, and say, well, Andy Robertson's solid left back for the last 7-8 years or something like that for Liverpool, is coming towards the later stages of his prime. If we were being honest to him, he's not been the same as what he was 3, 4, 5 years ago. Yeah. And has he still got the engine in the tank to say, I can get up and down that left side relentlessly for 90 minutes, week in, week out, a couple of injuries, albeit, shoulder one isn't necessarily, a pulled leg muscle or something that would overly affect him. But as he gets older, these injuries are more prone to happen, they might look and say, well, I could move Andy Robertson on and get a decent fee, and I could bring in a young lad who's 22, 23, fit, agile, and I'm able to get 5-6 years out of him, where I might only get 2 out of Andy Robertson. And would that be a little bit upsetting for some fans? Yes, it would. Because everyone loves Andy Robertson and what he gave our club. But if it was a manager's decision to think, well, I think that I'm doing the right thing here, and actually I'm going to present you with player X, and you're going to be absolutely overwhelmed with this lad for the next 5, 6, 7 years, fans will quickly change and it'll all be accepted. So it's all up for grabs. And I find it crazy how we're seeing transfer stories about Liverpool linked to players in the summer. We don't even know who the manager is.
No, he's going to be doing the recruitment or anything.
No, we have no idea. We had no idea Klopp was leaving. That was kept secret, weren't it, for 3 months, something like that.
Yeah.
So whoever it is, obviously the bookie's favourite and the name on everyone's lips is Xabi Alonso, and I wouldn't be at all disappointed if it was Xabi Alonso. After the game last week, I was in a local pub outside the ground, and the best midfielder in the world song was ringing round us by a Leverkusen. We're putting Bayern Munich to bed 3-0. And if Xabi Alonso is to be the guy, wonderful. But I just have a little feeling that it might not be him. Maybe.
No, I think it's too soon for him. I think personally with FSG and all this stuff and the data and all the rest of it, they're going to go, he's definitely on our list. He's on the spreadsheet for our manager in 4 or 5 years if we're looking. Not now.
I just think the romantic decision is there, and we this could sound terrible, but we were all sorts of set on Steven Gerrard was going to be the man to replace Jurgen Klopp when he was doing well at Rangers. And we all love Stevie as a player, can't thank him enough for all that he did for us. But would you want Steven Gerrard as a manager now 2 or 3 years later down the line, seeing how things have panned out after a couple of good years? Definitely not.
No, that's
the word.
Yeah.
And, Xabi could be, it's a double-edged sword. He could be the next great big thing. And we could just get the guy early and see, right, well, we're going to build, 8-10 years under Xabi Alonso, and everything will be all rosy and we'll win so many trophies and the football will be fantastic and whatever. But I just think the way this club operates, that it wouldn't be a surprise if it's not Xabi Alonso and it's someone else. And, there's other names out there, and, there's actually various pods on AI that I've listened to this week. I think it's Dave Davis and Dave Hendrick have done them. And they've gone through Alonso and Amorim Sporting, and I think they've got 3 or 4 more to come. And it would not surprise me at all if it's another guy named not Xabi Alonso. And if that's who the club choose, and I'd imagine there probably is a little bit of influence from Klopp in the fact that, he will speak to players, managers, professionals around the game and get feedback, and he'll want to leave this club in as good a hands as possible. He's not going to do what Fergie did and say, I'll give it to me old mucker David Wagner, he gave it to David Moyes and off he rode up back to Scotland and watched the castle crumble, literally. I think the guy that Klopp is, he's not going to say, I want it to be this guy, but he's gonna have feelers out, I imagine, and say, I'm hearing good things about this fella and that fella, and he's gonna probably have some sort of say in the fact that I've heard whatever about such a manager. So
yeah, you wouldn't, if you were at Liverpool looking for the next boss, you wouldn't miss the chance to go and ask Klopp what he thought of someone, would you?
Of course not. He's led us to this point, so but why wouldn't you? So. And I'm just not being drawn into all this romanticism, and I like what Klopp did. It's quite common in Germany where managers are announced that they're going to go. As someone who sort of keeps an eye on Borussia Dortmund, they've turned over several managers since Klopp has gone. And I remember, I think it was 3 years ago, they announced, that the manager at the time was going and they were getting a fella from Gladbach, and then Gladbach announced they were getting a fella from somewhere else, and this was all done in like March, February, March time.
Yeah.
And it's just the efficient sort of German way of doing things, and I think maybe, that's possibly why Klopp has come out and said it, and it's just not obviously a dumb thing in England, but now we've got over that shock, and I think it most level-headed Liverpool fans have just sort of gone, okay, well, he's going, but we've got 20 plus games potentially to play this season. Let's just knuckle down and get on with them. And then we'll approach that bridge when we get to it in, hopefully the very end of May, when there's all the trophies have been won.
Yeah, and it's not even as if it's not like a fan vote, is it? We're not going to get given like 6 names on a short list and then, we all get to vote for the last 4, and then maybe they do a bit of a parade or something around, come and sell us to themselves to us, and we get it down to the last 2. But it's nothing. We'll have nothing to do with it. All we'll know is we'll hear rumours, and we'll believe some, will not believe others. Some will be worth believing, some won't, and then eventually it'll come out, and we'll probably get, I don't know, Paul Joyce will tell us that this is who's going to be announced, and a couple of hours later he'll be announced. That's the kind of thing that's probably going to happen. And what I hope doesn't happen as well is that people who set their hearts on Xabi based on this like romantic version of him, the lad who, he stamped out that broken ankle and tried to carry on playing and stuff like that. This, great player, did a lot for us while he was with us. Arguably could have done a lot more if he'd have stayed, but, Real Madrid will call him. Do you blame him? He's not, he's not the finished article in my view yet. And if he does come in, it'll be because no doubt, FSG and all the data and everything, they've got it all together and worked out he's right for us. I just think it's a little bit too early. And, I can remember with Brendan Rodgers when he first came, we thought, oh, what's he going to be like? We'll see, give him a chance. And then that season where we were sort of so close to winning the league, we thought, my God, this is the man for us. And I think the second season is where you realise that he wasn't the man for us. And maybe in his case, maybe it was just too early for him. And maybe if he'd have not come to us at that time and he'd had spent more time at other clubs and building his way up to the level of Liverpool, because without being big-headed, we are quite a top club, there's a lot of clubs you can go to before you come to one that's as big a club as Liverpool. And to me, the kindest thing I could have said when the wheels were starting to come off with Brendan Rodgers was it was just too early for him. Now, whether he'll ever will be the manager that's good enough to manage a club and do well at a club as big as Liverpool's another matter, I don't know. Maybe, he got his fingers burnt by being with us and he'll never quite get to that level. I don't know. But I'd hate us to fall out with Xabi because he comes when he's not ready and then it doesn't work out. And I'd also hate us to get some other manager and we fall out with him before he's even started because he's not Xabi. I just hope we respect whatever decision is made. And talking to managers, I was thinking before, like when we were mentioning Thiago, maybe the next time we'll see him play a game for us is in a Legends game, and there is one in March. And we've both picked up on this that, there's going to be another guy, another face in the dugout. We've got all the regular ex-players, and these matches, it's a Legends game, but it's played at Anfield. It's usually full. All the ex-players, okay, they never could play a season now, but they give everything to these games, and you still see signs of the old silky skills and all the rest of it. But management-wise, someone who's never been at Liverpool before, but is a massive Liverpool fan, and I think it's an amazing gesture what we're doing. We're giving Sven-Göran Eriksson a chance to be part of the LFC Legends management team on the day. Yeah,
I think it was mentioned about 3 or 4 weeks ago or something. He'd done an interview, didn't he? And very sadly, and or heartfelt wishes go to Sven that he's got a bad illness, hasn't he? And he might not have too long left with us, which is awful to say about a guy who's probably dedicated his life to football. And his one wish would have been had had his time again, that he would have managed Liverpool. And I think that at one point we potentially did consider Sven as manager, and it just didn't work out for one reason or another. But the fact that the club have been so classy, because there was a little sort of push, and that this is the power of online and social media. is, there was a big clamour from fans, tagging the club in posts to say, look at what he's saying here. He just wants like that dream to come true, and we can do it because there is these Legends games that take place once a year. I think it's the international break in March, which it's been nice, hasn't it? No international football, I think, since November to not actually have that break in the season. But lo and behold, it's back. Mr. Waistcoat and all that for England, but it's just, I think other clubs would maybe say, okay, well, we understand what you're saying there, Sven. Why don't you come along and have the King's treatment, and we'll let you have Dalglish's cease for a week, or insert club legend into that space, and we'll give you the run of the ground. You can go meet all the players. You can go down the dressing room before and after the game, and lots of nice pictures for socials and whatever. But I think it's just a really good thing, and not many other clubs would have probably thought of the option to give Sven the chance to lead out a Liverpool team and or be a Legends team. And I think there's a very loose term to be tagged to this Legends team, because while we were at the game last week, there was players reeled off who were going to partake in that game, and to call them legends of Liverpool FC is, stretching the word beyond all its means. But I mean, you can't really tag it as LFC ex-players.
You've got to say legends, even if it is Gregory Vignal you're talking about, aren't you? So
yeah, and there's a couple of others in there who, partook in games in Liverpool, but probably didn't overly influence the games to too much of a positive impact. But we are where we are. But yeah, for Sven to walk out of that tunnel and take a seat on the bench, and I hope, I think it's Rush, Barnes and Aldridge who are part of the coaching team for that game.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if Sven is stood there, suit and red tie, and, gets the honour of playing Liverpool manager for the day. And it's against Ajax, so there'll be a couple of ex-Ajax players on parade too. So should be a good game and a good occasion, and it's nice that we've honoured his dream and making it come true.
Yeah, Ryan Babel's playing for both sides in the game.
I wonder if he'll spray his hair different colour, or he'll just go the red and white. I think the last time I seen him, he had pink. Yeah,
maybe do half on one side on the other. Depends which side the camera gets in from. I mean, this is the thing about the Legends. I mean, I think if you did this game 10 years ago, what kind of players would you be seeing playing in it? Players who were players 10 years before the players. You know what I'm trying to say. At the moment, we're looking at like Jerzy Dudek is going to be involved apparently. So is Sander Westerveld. I mean, Dudek was a legend because of Istanbul, but even he wasn't around much after that, and could have easily not ended up having anything happen to him that made him the legend in that same way, because that's the problem we've got now, is the players that we can pick as our ex-player squad or our legend squad are all kind of from an era when we weren't winning much, and I suppose we're going to go through this little spell now where, because the players who did win things are getting too old now to play too much. That's probably why some of those names are on the in the dugout. Rushy, Barnsley, and Aldridge. Maybe it's getting. I don't know if they're going to put the boots on at all, but I'm not sure they'll play much, if anything. In my view, they're the legends. They did legendary things for us. So many legendary games had those players involved, and it's just not the same for Martin Skirtle's another one. How many legendary moments did he get the chance to have? Even and let's face it, we make Steven Gerrard is a legend, but and he definitely was. But how many times was he just part of a kind of also of a squad where everyone was just like making up the numbers?
Yeah, I mean, sadly, that you're probably looking at maybe 10, 15 years from now. And then we'll have, a hell of a Legends team, wouldn't we?
With Klopp managing it, maybe, if he's still around.
Yeah, and you look at the players who are currently at the club or maybe have left the club in recent years, and that's what you would term as legends. And I think only yesterday, actually, is Fernando Torres, who I think he only won one trophy with us. Did he win? I can't remember if he was it. an FA Cup, or was he not there at that time? I don't think he was.
Because, he came probably too late for us to get.
Was it 2007 he joined, I think it was?
Yeah.
So he will have missed.
In the final, wasn't he, in the second final?
Athens.
Yeah, but we didn't win, obviously, so...
No. So, he's a player who splits opinion, but I think his prime career games were Atletico Madrid and Liverpool. So, yes, he didn't leave under the best circumstances and whatever. But his career after Liverpool, as Klopp once said, isn't always going to be as good as sort of the best it's going to get is at Liverpool. See Philip Coutinho for classic example of that one.
Yeah.
But at the time he was a legend at the club. Fernando Torres was an idol of so many. And you think back to the sort of link up between Gerrard and Torres, and just had a quick look, and I'd imagine Gerrard is probably going to feature within that game because El Ettifaq is the club he manages, isn't it? Don't have a game. Yeah, I had to slow the pronunciation down, but he doesn't have a game, so I'd imagine Stevie's probably going to be a couple of days before we go, we got a special guest, and it's Stevie. I can't imagine Xabi Alonso is going to insert his name into said Legends lineup, though, because of all the hype and the talk. It's probably wise, and the type of fella that Xabi is, he's probably just going to go, actually, I'll give that one a pass.
And he's probably going to be doing some scouting, maybe, isn't he, or something, so...
He's going to be bombarded, isn't he? He's just not worth it for him. No. I come back in another couple of years when, the opportunity presents itself again. They're a good game, and I just actually seen that we've sold 43,000 tickets, and, the Anfield capacity last week was up to a shade under 60,000.
Yeah.
And, I said before, from where I stand in the cop and the roof drops down, I can't actually see the upper tier of the Anfield Road unless I go down about 15, 20 rows. But to actually walk out from the entrance, exits points, whatever, the stairwell, and actually see that red strip of seats filled, it was nice. It was lovely to see. And it's good that we've got this now. And I think, I've seen a couple of comments this week about European football's back and the power of Anfield, and we might not be in the Champions League, but we are still in Europe, and I'm looking forward to the European nights that are going to come up over the next few weeks, where that special sort of atmosphere. And then obviously we have one eye also on the Man City game, but to have the whole ground now fully accessible and open, and hopefully for the Legends game they can fill it and they can get it up towards the 60,000 mark, because it's a good thing to see the ground full, and obviously the proceeds from it all goes to charity as well, which is nice.
Yeah, and it means so much to the players as well. I mean, having worked with ex-players in the past, Liverpool players, they'll tell you they just love to have this chance to be the thing they miss most from being a player. It's the competitive stuff, because it's sort of your whole week's building up to a game and winning that game, and then you get over that game, then straight away building up to another game, whether it's for your club or your country. It's all about being competitive, and then they miss that so much when they call quits on the playing career. So they're so up for these games, and it's a shame the bodies don't sort of live up to the brains kind of thing. You can tell. But I was just thinking when you're on about Torres, then he hadn't won anything with us, because basically Hicks and Gillette basically came along, told a load of lies, and ruined all what could have happened. And I still think there's a parallel universe somewhere where maybe, Rafa took us on to win more things and Torres was a leading light in all of that. Who knows? There's still to show how much he was loved at Anfield. I mean, that Nike advert, wherever, spoofing that everyone in Liverpool had gone Spanish because of Nando. It was it was a joke, but it almost felt real. You would not have been surprised to see loads more Spanish stuff appearing in the city because of how much Liverpool fans loved him. It was an amazing advert. Dig it out on YouTube if you don't remember it, or even if you do, dig it out. It was good. I think we're gonna be sort of, pleased to see Eriksen there and all the rest of it. But I was just thinking, slightly different thing. I'm not sure how to react to this, personally, but there's one ex-manager I don't think we would welcome back. I mean, let's face it, if the Legends wanted another manager and Rafa was free, I'm sure that would go down well with fans. If Roy Evans came and wanted to do it, I'm sure that would go well with fans. Even Graham Souness, I don't think people would be, angry to see Graham Souness come along and do the job as a legendary manager. But, one ex-manager's in hospital at the moment, so I'm not too sure. I don't know. I don't want to sort of be a hypocrite and start praising him all of a sudden, but, I hope Roy Hodgson gets well soon because, despite all our misgivings about him, you don't want to see someone struggling, do you?
No, and surprisingly, last night I was in work and someone said, "Have you seen the Hodgson news?" And I was like, "He'd been sacked."
Yeah.
And they were like, "Well, he probably has." And then they replaced him with a fella, or at the same time he's in hospital. And I was like, "Hey?" And they were like, yeah, he's in hospital. And I was like, wow. So, like, I had to go and, like, have a little look and see, like, he's taken ill and he's in hospital and, or all actually good thoughts and wishes go to Roy. And it's probably a case of a very sad thing to say, but he's just trying to do too much for the guy of his age. He should have, when he left Palace the first time, he probably should have said that's enough, and then he got lured back in, and even last season he sort of done okay and steadied the ship and got them to where they needed to be, somewhere around 12th to 14th in the table, and that's his job done. And there should be someone bigger at Palace to just say, like, Roy, just time is time, mate. You just need to go and just retire and enjoy the rest of your life with your grandkids and your kids and great grandkids or whatever. And, you don't need to be doing this. And I know it's hard for people to walk away from the game. And, we had the unfortunate case of Gerard Houllier, who put so much into the game that it damaged his health. And you do wonder in hindsight that did that lead to an early death for Gerard, because he put so much into football. He caused, so much pressure on his body, it basically failed him at one point. And did that have a long-term lasting effect? And you'd like to hope that isn't the case with Roy. And as much as the memories aren't the best with him, you'd like to see the fella healthy as he can be, and actually just call it a day and sort of spend time with your family and be a family man, and don't worry about Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace will be here and be fine, but you don't need to worry about that. And hopefully, we get the positive news that he's able to leave hospital in the next few days, and Palace can get a result on Monday because they play Everton.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's my sort of feelings towards him have mellowed definitely over the years, because bottom line is it wasn't his fault he became our manager. I mean, okay, he could have turned the job down, but who's going to turn that job down? He just wasn't the right manager for us. It wasn't Brendan Rodgers' fault that he was our manager and it all, again, who's going to turn that job down? Sometimes, just the wrong people in the wrong place at the wrong time, or just permanently in the wrong place. I've got no hard feelings about him. And to be honest with you, it doesn't surprise me that he's come to this. He almost strikes me as someone who'd he'd probably tell you that he'd be his happiest, like if he's going to, when it's his time to go, he'd like it to be just after he's managed the game, just managed the game and managed to get his team to get a plucky draw or something. That's not having a little joke with him, but but it kind of sort of links us back in, doesn't it? It's what we were just saying about the legends. They miss that competitive stuff. They want to play games, and then right back to the beginning with Trent. Was he totally honest with himself, with the medical staff, with the manager, about how fit he was? Possibly not, and that's not having a go at him. That is not having a go at him at all. It's because that's how players are. They want to get out there and get playing and do the bit for the team. And it's good you've got players like that. I mean, I would much rather have a player who tries to play when maybe he's not quite ready than a player who tries to scab another couple of days off when, he's not worth it. He needs to get back playing. But, when we were just on down again as well about Torres, I looked and he did get in some kind of awards like Player of the Month and things like that. Which, funnily enough, I think Liverpool have cleaned up on basically almost with the Premier League. We've got Jota, Player of the Month, Klopp, Manager of the Month. I think Conor Bradley's won an award. I'm not sure if that's just an LFC one. And then someone's won another award as well.
Yeah, I mean, Bradley's was the fans' Player of the Month. Which, you can't imagine what the poor lad's been through in the last couple of weeks, but, he's back within training and whatever, and, to sort of have recognition from the fans, probably means a lot to any player, to win the fans' Player of the Month for your club, when you've just sort of broke through proper, because we have seen him on a couple of occasions over a few years, but I think we could probably now say, Conor Bradley has arrived and Conor Bradley is a first team squad option player now. And to have that appreciation from the fans, and, I'm sure it means a hell of a lot to him and his family, given what they've been through, to sort of have a little chink of positive light in their life. And moving on to the other two, Jota has quietly picked up the mantle of responsibility, we could say, for the time that Salah's been gone. And I think, was it probably only the Arsenal game we said was the only time we've looked over this period to say we've missed Mo there. Yeah. And even last week, he gets the opening goal, and a solid performance all round, and all three forwards got on the score sheet last week, which was good to see. And, Jota, he's probably the most adept finisher that we've got amongst us. And there's times in games where I often think like he sort of floats and doesn't really influence it a lot, but within the 12-yard, 18-yard box, like within that area of the goal, there's probably no one you'd want more in front of goal than him. He's deadly. And Klopp has scooped up his 10th Manager of the Month award, which, was a nice figure to get to in his final season. And let's hope that he can maybe get 11 or 12 of them awards, because that would mean, that Liverpool are winning games and we're doing things right. And Klopp is getting the recognition he deserves. If we can end the season on Klopp on 12 Manager of the Month awards, given we've probably only got 3 or 4 of them left to go, that'll be a nice way to end the season for Klopp and for Liverpool. And
there wasn't a while for the lads across the park. They've got a bit of I don't know if you get silverware for it, but Jordan Pickford save of the month.
Well, I'm sure they'll probably have to rejig a few things in the cabinet, find space for that one.
Find the key for it first. I mean, let's
Well, yeah. I mean, you'll probably need a locksmith to get into that cabinet, but I mean, the cabinet's probably the size of a microwave, isn't it? Let's be honest. But when you're facing so many shots, you're probably bound to have contender for save of the month. I think it's 4 away games or something like that now that they've not managed to score a goal, and it was seemingly quiet in work on Monday morning after the humbling defeat to Manchester City, where we got beat, but Man City is still only 2 points behind you with a game in hand. So
yeah, it didn't quite go to plan for them because we didn't lose, but they're happy with that result for City. Yeah,
I think they were more pleased at the fact that Sheffield United beat Luton. which, you know, if that's the sort of level of, you know, success on the weekend, if Liverpool win and your next sort of thing is Everton getting a positive result, and then if that isn't the case, then you're looking at, you know, the outcome of Luton versus Sheffield United, then maybe you probably need to drop into a division where you're probably looking at like Rotherham and, you know, I don't know who else is down there, Sunderland and Plymouth and whatever. That's the sort of teams you're looking at for comparative results, and maybe you need to become accustomed to looking for such teams on the final score sheet.
Yeah. I mean, this is what we're going to miss out if they go down. And again, I mean, I actually think this year is probably the best chance of not going down. You know, they might be safe before like the last game of the season. Even, you know, they might actually do it with some room to spare. We'll see. Depends what happens with this hearing about the points and stuff. I mean, they're good at shooting themselves in the foot, aren't they? So we'll see. But yeah, we'll miss them if they go down. But they'll still be doing funny things, just won't be in our division if they go down. So I'm sure we still have plenty to laugh at. And talking of so-called rivals who were blue, let's just finish off on the because they obviously not had much time to look ahead to the next game. Then we've got Luton, but then the game after that, which, you know, I'm not going to look at in too much detail yet, you know, one game at a time and all that. But we were saying last week, weren't we, that for some reason digital tickets for Liverpool fans and paper tickets for Chelsea fans. And we wondered why, you know, because the affluent south and, you know, the poverty stricken north and all the rest of it, you know, all the stereotypes and all the rest of it, you know, how can we have digital tickets when, you know, I'm surprised, do they even have computers in Liverpool? You can imagine people saying. But yeah, we've got digital tickets, they've got paper. It's a bit sad, isn't it? The reason that's been given.
Yeah, I mean, who'd have thought that, you know, the modern North have actually got digital access to stadiums where the West End of London still use paper. I wonder if they still have a guy sat behind a turnstile who rips your ticket in half and sort of presses the pedals to let you in. You know, I can't imagine that is the case at Stamford Bridge, albeit it does need modernisation and whatever, but it just seems like a piss poor excuse. And you know, I think it's a way, yes, probably to try and stop touts, you know, because ticket touting happens all around, and the demand to get a ticket to see Liverpool is high at any time of the season, but especially now given circumstances of A, a final, and B, Jurgen Klopp going. But I just find it a weak excuse, and what will probably happen now is there'll be paper tickets from the Chelsea end on the black market, you know, changing hands for obscene amounts of money, probably ending up in the hands of Liverpool fans. And that's where the problem then, you know, gets even worse, you know, because there'll be Liverpool fans in the Chelsea end, and, you know, people will do anything to try and see that game. And, you know, it only takes, you know, one idiot amongst thousands to cause a problem. And that can happen on both sides of the fence. You know, both teams have got idiots in the fan base, but, you know, people will be desperate to get there. And if that's the case and a bad situation happens, it's probably manifested from the fact that they've been quite immature in the fact that they're handing one club digital tickets and one club paper. You know, it's meant to be a modern stadium. It's meant to be the pinnacle of football in England. And yeah, you know, you've got this debacle of fans having different sorts of access to points to the ground. It's a shame, really, but we hopefully won't let it overshadow the situation. And next week, hopefully after a couple more games in the Premier League, we can focus our attention towards that final and concentrate on the affluent West London boys that they are, amongst other things.
It's mad, isn't it? Like every round of the League Cup this season didn't have VAR because the EFL said that unless every club involved in every ground that's going to be used in each round can have VAR, it won't happen in that round. So I think the reason it was in the semi-final last season because all the clubs involved had the ability to do VAR, but this time one of the clubs didn't, and obviously it's 2-leg semi, so one ground was going to be used that didn't have it, so they decided not to use it. Whether it'll be used in the final, we'll see. I'm guessing it probably will. But
it will, I can confirm.
Right. So that's not
because the officials have been announced.
Oh, right. Oh, God. So have you given us sort of like, have we got paper officials as well then?
No, We have, it was put out on a nice glossy post, I think, 2 or 3 days ago.
Right.
Let's just give you the who's who of referee names here. Chris Kavanagh is the ref.
Okay.
Pretty sure he's Greater Manchester based. It doesn't take much to find that out. Keeping the Manchester theme available. Assistant referee will be Mark Scholes.
Yeah.
James Mannering. No Dad's Army reference there, of course. Tim Robinson, the guy from last week who couldn't help but dish out umpteen amounts of cards against Burnley, is the fourth official. Everyone's favourite football shot from the 90s, Wade Smith, is the reserve assistant. Sheffield's finest, John Brooks, is on VAR and he's assisted by Mark Perry. Mark with a C, we must add, so let's be down with the kids. A selection of gentlemen who could only be described as England's white Brexit brigade.
Yeah, I mean, what a bunch. I bet they don't do the national anthem.
We'll get into that next week, I think.
Yeah.
We save that one for next week.
Yeah, we will. There's plenty we can talk about next week. And that's the thing, maybe put the brakes on thinking too much about the final, because we have got 2 games to go, and let's face it, we'd rather... You don't want to give yourself this shot. I would rather us win every single league game from now to the end of the season. If someone could guarantee me that, then I would actually not be as bothered about the League Cup final. But I'm actually bothered about every game. I just want us to win every game from now till the end of the season. It's not a lot to ask. We've got a couple of games to come before the final. Brentford and then Brentford and then Luton. We've done Burnley. We're starting to get towards the end of the season. It's running out, but it's good fun and we're doing well. And we don't know what kind of teams are going to be put out at different times now between now and the end of the season. But we know they'll do the best, and we know that we got them the right way, and we know that we enjoy watching them, and we know that maybe one day we'll see them playing as legends, and some of them we might even call legends, but we'll see. But Jay, thanks as always. Thanks to you for listening, and we'll leave it there for this week, and we'll see you next time.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.